Now we'll be moving to Proposition 22. And the question is, should app-based rideshare and delivery drivers be classified as independent contractors, not employees? And should rideshare and delivery companies be required to adopt labor and wage policies unique to these drivers? The people who support Prop 22 say that rideshare and delivery drivers want to work as independent contractors, not employees, and that forcing companies to hire drivers as employees would get rid of hundreds of thousands of jobs. People opposed to Prop 22 say that rideshare and delivery companies don't want to pay drivers basic benefits, and that treating drivers as employees will make sure they get paid sick leave and unemployment benefits. So we will begin with an opening statement from Kyle Griffith supporting Prop 20. Welcome.
Hi there, and thank you for the opportunity to present. Greetings from beautiful Midtown. My name is Kyle Griffith. I'm the Senior Coalitions Coordinator for the Yes on Proposition 22 campaign. Proposition 22 is going to save app-based jobs and services. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are at risk because last year, drastic new legislation passed by the Sacramento legislature threatens to make it illegal for more than 1 million Californians to continue working as independent contractors with app-based rideshare, grocery, and food delivery network companies. 80% of these drivers work part-time, fewer than 20 hours per week. They rely on this flexible work to help supplement their incomes to make ends meet at the end of each month. We're talking about parents who drive when their kids are at school, caretakers who have family members that are homesick, artists who are trying to support their passions, students to work around their class schedules. And the reason why they're able to do that is because the independent contractor classification gives them the flexibility and independence to pick when, where, and how long they want. But access to these flexible earning opportunities is at risk. I mean, we're only a couple weeks removed from Uber and Lyft announcing that they were potentially going to have to end services in California due to lawsuits traced back to this law. And what was lost in that initial conversation is that drivers want to remain independent contractors. By a 4-to-1 margin in independent survey after independent survey, drivers have expressed that they prefer being independent contractors. The employment models just simply doesn't work for many of them. We have independent research from Berkeley Research Group that shows that forcing these drivers to be treated as employees could eliminate 80 to 90% of app-based jobs. At a time when California is experiencing record high unemployment, that is simply ludicrous. And so what the solution is Proposition 22. It was put on the ballot in October of last year, and it seeks to improve the quality of app-based work for these hundreds of thousands of Californians. It requires drivers or the platforms to provide drivers with a guaranteed minimum earnings of at least 120% of the minimum wage in whichever market they're driving. It adds 30 cents a mile compensation towards expenses. And there's no cap on how much drivers can earn. A recent study by UC Riverside found that under Proposition 22, many drivers working on average 30 hours a week would earn upwards of $25 an hour for engaged time. Proposition 22 also adds access to healthcare. Drivers that work 15 hours a week start earning a contribution, which becomes a full contribution under Covered California at 25 hours per week. And drivers can earn multiple healthcare contributions if they're working for multiple companies. It also adds occupational accident insurance to cover on-the-job injuries and illnesses, and strengthens and improves existing protections against discrimination and harassment. For consumers, it ensures that these services remain available and affordable. These companies are going to want, if they're forced to treat their drivers as employees, are going to want to make sure that there is sufficient demand to justify the operating in most areas of the state. What that means is that with fewer drivers available, we're going to see longer wait times, higher prices, and potentially the elimination of services in many parts of California. Proposition 22 is supported by more than 100,000 app-based drivers, nearly 100 organizations, including the California Chamber of Commerce, California State Conference of the NAACP, the National Action Network of California, and dozens of other business, senior, disability, and other groups in support of this measure. And we hope that voters support us here in November.
Thank you. Claire Lau, opposing Prop 22.
First of all, what is Prop 22? What are the intended and unintended outcomes of the proposition? Prop 22 is a special exemption that Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, Instacart wrote and paid to get on the ballot. It is a special exemption that only applies to these app companies and would exempt them from the very basic responsibilities that all other employers in California must pay. It would mean that they won't have to pay sick leave, no minimum wage, no unemployment insurance, no breaks for meals and rest periods, no health care, no workers' compensation when drivers are hurt on the job. All of this during a pandemic. According to a 2020 study conducted by the University of California, if Uber and Lyft had rightfully treated their drivers as employees, these two companies would have paid $413 million into the state's unemployment insurance in the past 5 years. Instead, right now, during the pandemic, California taxpayers have to pay for the emergency aid to these drivers. One of your questions is any language in the proposition that may confuse voters. There are a lot. Some of them are the minimum earnings. Prop 22 states that drivers would earn $16.80 an hour. However, research at UC Berkeley found that Prop 22 would only pay drivers $5.69 an hour when you account for out-of-pocket costs, the lack of basic benefits, and the time they're spent reporting into work, but not counted as actively serving customers. Also, there's a lot of language around safety and sexual harassment, but Uber and Lyft already are required by law to conduct criminal background checks. Prop 22 eliminates required sexual harassment trainings and to investigate customers' sexual harassment claims. They don't need to use a ballot measure to buy these special exemptions. They only need to follow the law that is already on the books and that all other businesses comply with already. There's a lot of language around flexibility going around, especially in ads right now. There are some myths about most drivers only work a few hours, but UC Santa Cruz research showed that over 50% of the workers actually work at least 40 hours a week. There's some misconception about following state labor law makes it impossible to allow workers flexibility. That's absolutely not true. There's nothing in current California state law that prevents a company from allowing part-time employees from setting their own shift schedules. I used to be a substitute teacher, and I was able to have my own schedule, and I was paid as an employee with, benefits like sick leave. These corporations, as of yesterday, have put in $181 million into Prop 22, the most of any ballot measure in California's history. Groups that do not support Prop 22 are labor organizations like the California Labor Federation, the AFL-CIO, Transit Workers Union, SEIU, the California Federation of Teachers. The California Democratic Party has said no on Prop 22, and well over 100 elected officials have said no, including Vice President Joe Biden, Senators Kamala Harris, and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Some of the direct impacts to the land park community, future retirees would be impacted with their Social Security and Medicare for retirement because Uber and Lyft refuse to pay into those. Businesses will see their unemployment insurance rates go up because they are not able to because companies like Uber and Lyft are not, actually paying into their fair share. And also working people obviously are impacted by this.
Thank you, Claire. Do you see the timer? Since you came in late, I want to make sure that you see her there with the blue
Now I see her. It was a little difficult at first.
Yeah, but there she is. So she'll be letting you know when you have 30 seconds left and when to stop. So Claire, now your question for the supporters of Prop 22.
Okay, my question is that the companies sponsoring Prop 22 have acknowledged that the pandemic has cut their rideshare business by 75%, which means that there are many out-of-work drivers. Many of these have filed for unemployment benefits, yet Uber and Lyft have not contributed a dime to the of payroll taxes into the unemployment insurance in California. Why do you think it is fair for every other employer in California to pay for the unemployment benefits of out-of-work rideshare drivers?
Sure. App-based rideshare, app-based work is truly unique kind of work. I mean, there's no other, employer where you can work for multiple companies at the same time concurrently. For example, like if you're working at McDonald's and you look across the street and you see that the Starbucks has a line out the door, you can't tell your boss like, hey, I'm going to go work at Starbucks for an hour to kill that line and then I'll come back. But with app-based work, you can. These drivers have access to work. They're able to start and stop whenever they want, taking breaks for months at a time, setting their own hours. They don't have to ask for vacation time or sick days. The unemployment insurance is, it applies to more traditional forms of employment. Folks aren't getting fired by their employer on app-based companies except for serious violations of the terms and service. So it seems inappropriate to do so. And the unemployment is being paid for by the federal PUA, not California state directly. So it's a unique kind of work, and we feel that the independent classification is the proper form.
And Kyle, your question for the opponents of 22.
Absolutely. Earlier, you mentioned a study by the University of California, Santa Cruz. One of the authors of that study very recently on Twitter said that it was okay if the majority of drivers who work part-time lose access to this income if it means that the full-time drivers get benefits. At a time with record unemployment, do you think that it's appropriate to eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs that are helping people make ends meet at the end of each month?
So several things. First of all, our campaign does not speak for that person at UC Santa Cruz. Obviously, I don't think it is okay for anyone to lose their jobs. However, I think some of it is this person may be referring to the threats by Uber and Lyft saying that they're going to pull out of California. And these are threats that Uber and Lyft have made elsewhere before. They've made this time and again. And we don't think that these threats actually showed that Uber and Lyft have their drivers' workers' rights and drivers' benefits in mind. They are actually just showing that they have their profits in mind and want to bully basically the California voters and the legislature and everyone else in fear to let them get away with whatever they want. And therefore, Uber and Lyft don't have to pull out. They can be offering employee benefits and still operate in California and treat their workers properly.
Thank you.